Yes, we're still talking security because, yes, the matters with immigration and security are linked. But I think Nigeria has a unique situation around security. It's been on the lips of everyone for a while now. And just yesterday, from the report you saw there, the leadership of the National Assembly visited the president. Let's take a look at some of the matters arising in terms of security. We have with us in our studios this morning Dr. Ahmad Suleiman, who is a Director, Research and Production, Ambassadors of Peace and Social Welfare. He's also a lecturer at the Faculty of Law, ABU, Zaria. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you, Moto. Good morning.
Good morning.
Nigerians.
Well, we have seen a plethora of worrying situations. Last week, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, we saw the brutal murder of the CAN chairman, local CAN chairman in Adamawa State. We saw the kidnapping of seminarians as a result. I think one of the seminarians was killed. We saw the kidnapping of the wife of a doctor somewhere in Taraba. She was killed over the weekend. And a number of other incidences which is making everyone a little worried about the security situation in the country. The National Assembly, too, also, gave voice to what a lot of people are feeling when they came back from recess. Security also was on the front burner for them, and one of the recommendations they came up with was that the service chiefs should go. Now we see that they've met with the president. They're not quite saying that. They're asking for more funding. I don't know if you have had time to think, through all that we have been going through in terms of security, in terms of where we are as a country. Are you satisfied or comforted that some work is being done to remedy the situation that we're in?
Well, thank you. I think I'm satisfied with positions taken by this government. But for you to appreciate what we are seeing now, what you people are seeing now is what we've seen about 2 decades ago. As far back as 2004, about 16 years ago now, I wrote, and my write-up and research was published in the Daily Trust of 1st June 2004, where we look at security apparatus in Nigeria, and we saw the need to overhaul the security system from doctrinal point of view, from tactical point of view, and from operational point of view to meet the ever-changing threats to our national lives. Now, but for so long, all governments have never paid attention to that.
Well, what did you see that made you say that?
Okay. Now, it took 2015 before there was a restructuring of our security sector. And this 2015, although not much was done, but December 2019, we have a government that listened and refocused Nigerian security strategy from regime security to human security. Now, even this is not common to Nigeria. It's even around West Africa, there is what is called SSR, Security Sector Reform. They've been banking on this. Some countries have done that, some countries have not done that. Now, all nations are facing up new threats and new challenges. The security system we have on ground is a security system we've inherited from Britain. And it was a colonial security policing system that was just focused on colonial security and then petty crimes. But suddenly Nigeria got our independence, and then there were a lot of challenges. But this failure by former regimes to face the future trends and securities of the country is what we are facing now. Now, it took 1976 before even SSS, after the assassination of late General Murtala, before everybody woke up to the need to now face security apparatus. It's not about just petty crime and petty policing. Now, that was what brought about Decree number 16 of 1976. But that didn't have time for the security system, NSO then, to develop itself. By 1989, it was disbanded and restructured again by Decree number 19 under Babangida regime. I think 1989. Now, some of us have been writing that new issues are coming up. You have global issues. You have national issues. Now, this is not common to Nigeria. All countries have gone through serious crises of nation building. Some countries survived, some countries broke into two, like India broke into three, Pakistan, Bangladesh. Sudan broke into two, Southern Sudan and Sudan. Rwanda had it, all these countries had it. Nigerians always wait for a problem before they start thinking.
Had what precisely?
They had serious crises. All these crises are crises of nation building. And then you also have global crises. If you look at Nigeria, most of the crises are centripetal crises. Everybody wanting to pull the country back. Boko Haram wanting to pull the country back. IPOB wanting to put the country back. So all these centripetal forces, don't forget they act on the surface and they also act underneath. There are a lot beyond what appears to the eyes in these threats. Do you remember that about 3 days ago, somebody was caught trying to bomb a church in Kaduna, a Nathaniel by name? What should a Nathaniel have in bombing a church? So this tells you that there are a lot of conspiracies and issues on ground. So you need a preemptive security system that looks at these problems, that is more at preemptive measures than reactionary. Now, this is one. Secondly, we also have a problem of our security is not ready for this trend. Although I don't blame Nigeria alone, because in other countries there is militarization of security operations, because the police are not built up to meet some of the challenges. But I don't know if you've noticed, do you notice within 4 or 5 years, the kind of police we have now is not the kind of police we had before? Do you observe that in those days when Boko Haram, police run away at the shout of a gun? Do you remember last week, our SAR was known to have even pursued Boko Haram, although they later had some problem with the military. But they stood because of the training and capacity improvement. They first off Boko Haram and they were able to repel them. This is an improvement. Do you remember what the president said in last November, but I think 2 months ago, when he was launching the restructuring of the security system, when he said, as far as the security is concerned now, they are going to refocus Nigerian security to human security. And he exactly mentioned that, in this sense, the government will pay attention to social and economic aspects of security.
The question is, what have we seen in that regard? You talked about the refocusing of security from regime change to human security.
Yes.
But a lot of Nigerians still do not feel safe. I mean, you have talked about organizations like Boko Haram. You talked about IPOB, IPOB in the southeast, which has now been proscribed.
Yes.
But I think it was one of the data given by our research analyst, our in-house research analyst, which found out that according to international organizations which look at the causes of deaths and violence in the country, Boko Haram is actually second place in terms of the organization has even taken more lives. I think you have a very extreme, they're called extremist Fulani militia, taking first place on that particular list. So there are questions as to whether we really understand what is going on in the country as we speak. The president too was, talking about banditry in the country when he was expressing concerns with those who came to visit him from Niger State. And he said, it looks like there is a wicked plan going on in the country or against the country to try, he doesn't know what it is about. So do we fully, that is from the president, do we fully understand the dimensions of security that we're facing?
We really understand. If an average observer, a cursory researcher should know, there are things I want you to pay attention to this trend. When the president came, when this regime came about, the focus, when this government came about, the focus was Boko Haram. As far as Boko Haram is concerned, all the 17 local governments they've seized are now
That was Boko Haram in the northeast,
yes, I'm moving. It is this trend that forced, do you remember immediately the Boko Haram issue was done with, then the conflict moved inward into Benue, into Taraba, Benue, and Nasarawa. You remember all the series of attacks and crises around Taraba in those days, immediately after Boko Haram was curtailed. Now, all attention turned to that. And when those issues of Taraba Middle Belt were at least, it is not 100% now settled, but when they were at least brought under control, suddenly another aspect of the challenge came about, which is banditry. Now, if you look at the positions taken by government, these issues are not mere issues of they come, they attack, you go and attack them. No. It's an issue of assessing the threat, what is the source of the threat, blocking the threat. Now, what makes Nigeria worse compared to all other countries is that Nigeria in West Africa occupies a central position. About from researches, about 70-something% of the weapons that came into West Africa through the Libya crisis ended up in Nigeria here. So if you see through the positions taken by government, blocking the border, especially Niger, Chad, Aziz, where these weapons are known to come through, you know, these are serious responses. Now, if you also look at some of the measures, proactive measures taken by this government, you will now understand what we have now are problems that by the time we're able to curtail this, I think will come to an end. But seriously, Nigerians are also helping the situation. They are helping the security. Helping in the security in such that I've never seen a country where there is total absence of patriotism like Nigeria. We have a problem. And this problem is not biased, it's not one-sided. Any threat to me, my sister, is also a threat to you. By the time I forget that this is a national threat, and I try to look at it from local dimension, from my tribal dimension, from my religious dimension, and everybody is pulling the house down, you are weakening our capacity to respond to our national interests.
What do you mean precisely by that? When you talk about lack of patriotism, where did you see that?
Now, if you look at the comments by some of our politicians, if you look at the responses by some of our elders who, rather than let us sit down, let us see how do we improve the system, the security system so we have on ground. But everybody is trying to, let me establish my Amotekun, let me establish my this, let me establish my Arewa Shege Kapasa, let me establish this. And at the end of the day, it is the national threat, it is the national security that is suffering. It's like you have a family, and in this family, problems are certain, my sister. When you have a problem, do you just break away, the father takes this way, the mother takes this way, every child takes this way? The problem will not be solved. But sit down, come to the timetable. This is what we have. Let us appreciate the efforts we've made so far. No, in no time in the history of Nigeria have you had a government that had the confidence to come and say, see, let's refocus our security to human security. What they do before was just to enjoy regime security and allow people to suffer.
You know, Dr. Suleiman,
yes,
over and over again, the president, the federal government has given assurances that they are working on the security situation. They are doing something about it. Oh, we are recruiting more people. We've recruited 10,000 more policemen. The state government have been giving monies to, not just monies, equipment and all manner of support to the central police. But it doesn't look like it is getting down to the grassroots. Would you say then that they should just fold their hands and continue to look?
What is happening is what a philosopher said. He said a day in the life of a nation is like 100 years in the life of a nation is like a day in the life of an individual. These changes we want doesn't occur just in 1 year or in few months. Last week I have read through stories of about 5 countries, Indonesia and all those, Singapore, that were able to change. And I could see that every country you see that have taken their destiny into their hands have consistently focused on changing for 25, 50 years. Now, suddenly, on these issues of changing we are into, is an issue that just started about 5 or 6 years ago. Don't forget, the whole of refocusing I'm saying, it just has to do with doctrinal. And insecurity...
No, 5 or 6 years ago, the call, and I don't know whether, the call that our security architecture needs to change has been on for more than 5 or 6 years.
Yes, I said, even me, I wrote 16 years ago.
Yes.
But no government has responded until this government, which was the first attempt to restructure was in 2015.
So, indeed, there might be some restructuring going on. The question is, on a daily basis, people still have to carry out their businesses. On a daily basis, even from here to Kaduna or even from here to Plateau, you know, people's hearts are in their mouths when they travel. You know, are you saying that if we can, or if government around that particular region can do something to ensure that people, while the general one is still going on, people should just sit and not do anything about it?
What I'm saying is that we can all queue into the community policing system. And other security organizations like civil defense can also come up with community security collaboration. In such a way, it will work. For instance, it has worked in Borno when they were fighting Boko Haram. The military engaged the GTF. GTF was completely under the control of the military. So this kind of collaboration is welcome. And it's this kind of collaboration that will provide the operational restructuring of Nigerian policing. But what I'm saying is that where everybody wants to pull the house down, but especially...
How are they pulling the house down? If what they're saying they have established is similar to what, civilian JTF, how is that pulling the house down?
No, it's not similar. Civilian GTF was completely under military control. But this one is other efforts now being embarked upon are independent. And that is where the threat is coming from. We should all put our hands together. We should all collaborate with security agencies. Of course, the security agencies need to bring down this restructuring down to tactical and operational level. Tactical level in the sense that the command level would try to foresee that operations are done in this way so that we move from reactionary. Right now, Nigerian policing and security system is moving from reactionary to preemptive. And by the time we're able to develop serious preemptive policing system, then as far as we are concerned, Nigerians will be secured. But these things take time. Don't forget that you can't teach an old dog a new trick. So most of the officers on ground that are supposed to implement this restructuring, most of them are all hands that has been there before. But with constant refocusing, I think Nigeria will get over it. Nigeria have gotten over. We should have confidence in ourselves. There's no problem in Nigeria like Clinton said about America. There's no problem in Nigeria that cannot be solved by Nigerians. What I'm saying is that let's have confidence in how far we have gone, and then this will give us confidence that the efforts and the good Lord that has brought us to this position will see us so far to the end of the road. But by the time we have what psychologists call infantile narcissism, we cannot solve the problem.
What does that mean, please?
When you always cry over things, see things from narrow yourself point of view, instead of looking at the problem, assessing it, how do I solve the problem? Nigerians are not doing that. And this has to do with patriotism. Our problem is not just the security, it's the patriotism. Are
you accusing, just sorry to interrupt you, are you accusing the Southwest governors of not being patriotic enough?
It's not just Southwest, I'm accusing most of Nigerians of not having sufficient sense of patriotism like I see in other countries. Our problem, any problem Nigeria, any threat to Nigeria is a threat to all of us. We should never look at problems in Nigeria from just our own particular, peculiar point of view. Let us know that Nigeria needs to develop its security system. All countries have gone through this. These crises are not starting with Nigeria.
Yes, but there are those who have looked at the situation and found the lacuna. They believe that at the grassroots, there needs to be a system whereby information is fed to the police. Yes. And they believe that boots need to be on the ground, that, yes, the local people need to be very involved, yes, in what is going on. Yes. They know the terrain more than anybody else.
Yes.
And that these people, the police, that's the government institutions, need to be supported with boots on the ground.
Yes.
What is wrong with putting a system in place that does that?
Certainly there is nothing wrong, but what is wrong is where you want to be independent, where you want it to be a standalone. But where you are putting it like the military used the GTF in Maiduguri successfully.
To be independent, have they said that they wanted to be they have always said that this is in support of the police.
This, Abraham Lincoln used to say, when I was young, I pay attention to what people do. But when I grew up, I now focus my attention to what they do. Forget whatever they say. Look at the body language. Look at the comments. Look at, was it supposed to be an institution that works along with and under the control of the existing security structures, institutions we have? Or is this supposed to be, or are they having in mind an institution that is independent and works for what they think is their own threat?
Yeah, but the question will be this. Has it worked? Is it currently working to safeguard the lives and property of the people who it is set up to help? Shouldn't that be the question we're answering, rather than focusing on whether it is independent? And those questions, of course, we can answer them. But the primary purpose, which is the security of lives and property, isn't that the question?
It's paramount.
Yes, isn't that the question we should be asking?
It's paramount. Now, as paramount as security is, when it turns into an issue of blackmail, what do you think of it?
Who's blackmailing who?
Now, if you have a problem, if you have a Nigeria, just like any other country that is facing its problem, you have structures and institutions on ground being tried to be improved upon. Now, instead of coming to join hands to improve the systems we have on ground, and you just take a side position, develop your own, and you use our failure to explain your divergent action. Is that not blackmail, my sister? That's blackmail. Because these problems are our problems. As soon as we focus on these problems we are facing, the same problem with security is the same problem we are having with corruption, is the same problem we are having with nation building. And it is the same problem we are having in our hospitals, where nobody talks of improving the systems we have. Go to the hospital, nobody cares about improving our services. All everybody cares about himself. What do I take home? Or is this my uncle or brother? Then I give him attention. So what we are saying is that these problems we have with security and all other sectors is a problem that is linked to Nigerian nation building. We should look inward. There is something wrong in our approach to nation building. Our approach to nation building is still negative. No, we are not owning up to our country.
There are people who have said that this line of thought is coming from our history as our history with the military, that we now think that we all have to think alike, that we forget that we are a federation and that there are different types of security measures that will work for different types of situations, and that in this instance, we should find out that, situations are unique and that people need to come up with unique solutions to, attending to their security situations. Would you quarrel with that?
I would not quarrel, but what I will quarrel with is in the sense of if you are unique and you focus on just immediate solution, it will not solve a problem. And I want you to look at most of the positions we've taken in Nigeria. Nigerians are always quick solution. We think it is unique to the problem, but it causes a more threatening problem. For instance, take how we created Federal Character Commission. At the end of the day, Federal Character Commission is dividing us because we are not thinking of excellence, bringing the best in us. All we are focusing is give every state. And then I also want you to look at all other sectors we have. There are a lot of institutions in Nigeria that are now existing because there was a problem at a time, and in order to solve that problem, instead of giving it a long-time perspective, we just give a quick solution. It will solve the problem for the present, but it will lead us to another problem. And what I'm saying is that every country has some core issues they rally around. I have taken time to look at most countries that have developed. My sister, have you looked at every country that has a strong sense of patriotism excels? Look at United States. I was looking at the secret of Singapore, and I come to realize the secret of Singapore, they've had two presidents that brought them around common issues of unity in the country, official language and all cultures and all that. And I look at most other countries. They have problems. Most of these countries have problems, but what they do is they grow up from their problem. But Nigerians, because of this lack of national concern, national memory, national self-interest, we don't learn from our problem. We faced Biafra, but we didn't learn from Biafra.
Well, Dr. Ahmed Suleiman, we're totally out of time.
I wish we have enough time.
You've certainly provided another perspective, something that people might want to consider. We have to thank you for sharing your time and thoughts with us on Sunrise Daily this morning. He's the Director of Research and Production, Ambassadors of Peace and Social Welfare. He's also a lecturer at the Faculty of Law, ABU, in Zaria. But that's where we leave it for this segment of Sunrise Daily. We'll continue in a moment. Please stay with us.